else to get united. Like, what we gotta do is meet everybody on 149th Street at the bench.
So you're brand new to graffiti and you want to find some spots to hit. This topic actually comes from a conversation I had with my good friend Rage2, and he told me how he was talking to a bunch of people about awareness and what that means as a graffiti artist. And it got me thinking about certain questions that people ask me in the graffiti community. Some of those being, how do I find spots in graffiti? These are questions I would never think about answering on social media, just because of the simple fact that I don't know where each one of you guys lives, right? If I tell somebody, hey, go to this kind of area in order to find a spot, that might mean something totally different for somebody else. While sure, it might be a normal place for the average kid in the ghetto to go ahead and hang out at, for some kid in the suburbs to go to the same kind of area, maybe not the best idea. But here's the thing you gotta understand about graffiti artists. The whole essence of graffiti was that you did what you want, when you wanted, how you wanted to do it. Everything was on your terms. But I feel like the new graffiti artists today want a lot of things spoon-fed to them. Almost as if, and I guess this is kind of just society in general, nobody takes initiative in order to just make decisions on their own. They always need some kind of validation from somebody else or the okay from somebody else before they go ahead and do anything. One of the biggest questions I get is, well, John, how do I find spots? And it's like, I don't know, maybe you go outside and you look for them. The kind of person who has the temperament to do graffiti is going to do graffiti. They don't need to ask the question. That question never even crosses their mind because they already made that choice. But the people who don't have the temperament for graffiti, the people who typically don't last, are the people who ask those questions. The people who haven't already made that decision and need somebody else to give them the okay. The people who aren't self-assured enough to go ahead and make their own decisions without the input of someone else. If you ask me, those are the kinds of people that probably shouldn't be doing graffiti illegally. And definitely not the people who should be asking those kinds of questions. Because how do you think people found spots before the internet was really popularized? How do you think we found spots back when I very first started graffiti when there wasn't YouTube and there wasn't any forums to go ahead and chat on? How do you think they found spots in the 80s and the 70s? We went out and we looked for spots. That's what we did. That's what it took. And I don't want this to come off mean, but I feel like if the kind of person comes out and asks, how do I find spots for graffiti? My answer from now on is gonna be, your only spot is in the book. Just stay in the books. Don't even bother taking your stuff outside. Because the majority, not all, but the majority of those people aren't built for graffiti. Let's just call it for what it is. They are not built for graffiti. Because they clearly don't have the temperament needed to be a graffiti artist, which requires that you make your own decisions and you do things on your terms. But then that brings up a whole different question of, alright, well, what kind of person does graffiti? Which we have videos on that topic. We talked about that at length, about how I don't recommend people do illegal graffiti, and I explain my reasons behind that. So if you're the kind of person who doesn't have the temperament for graffiti, that's not a problem. That's not a bad thing. There's other alternatives, right? Especially nowadays where legal graffiti is really accepted, you can have other paths that are pretty successful in graffiti. You don't have to be a writer. Sure, yeah, before, you know, years ago, that was the only path pretty much, but nowadays, you could be a muralist. You can do things just in your books. You can do things digitally. You don't have to be a writer, but you can still be a graffiti artist. The differentiation being a writer does it illegally and a graffiti artist is just somebody who does graffiti. I think it's important. I think it's very important to recognize that truth about yourself and recognize whether or not you have the temperament or you don't, simply just based on the fact that, especially if you're young, you don't want to get yourself into certain situations that you can't undo. Any mature-minded, experienced writer will tell you graffiti isn't worth it. Even Saber himself has said it. Because right now, graffiti's cooler than it's ever been, right? You got these kids that are living pretty good lives that, you know, they live in the suburbs and they're smacking tags on a stop sign with no competition, throwing a crown up, and they're like, yeah, I'm king of my area, ha ha! And it's like, dude, number one, nobody else does graffiti in your area. You're a king of nothing. But number two, it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Come on. Not only does graffiti look ridiculous where you're doing it, but if you get caught, that's gonna stick on you for the rest of your life. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I'm under 18 and my haven't dropped yet, so I'm not gonna get charged. And it's like, well, no, you definitely can. And depending on where you live, they're gonna slam the book on you. So the whole entire argument of, well, I'm below 18, nothing can really happen, is just about one of the stupidest and ill-informed arguments that I've ever heard come out of a child's mouth. This video went off the rails. I went in totally different directions. My apologies, man. This is just a good topic. I had a chat with Rage2, and I kind of wanted to bring it here, and I ended up going on like 4 different tangents. Hopefully you guys don't mind. Look, I'm working on a bunch of informative content. We're working on the hand style book. This hand style book is gonna be completely I mean, it's gonna be wild. I'm writing this thing, and holy crap, there's a lot of information in here. So I'm excited to bring that to you guys. But right now, we've published these books so far, and you can pick them up if you want to. And if you want more graffiti content, the best how to do graffiti tutorials anywhere online, check out the top playlist with more down here. And I'll catch you guys back here next week. Thanks for watching.